No worries. Good afternoon. It's nice to sort of meet everybody. And thanks to Tim for supporting me with this. I guess Tim and I caught up before this, and we're really hopeful that it turns into, if possible, a bit of a discussion. So if we're going through things and anyone wants to comment, has their own experiences they'd like to share, that would be really good to get, because I think it will just be a much more valuable session, definitely than just me talking the whole time. So just please feel free if you feel confident to do so. So we're going to talk through what we think it might take to help build and maintain a successful managed laundry solutions. And it's really, oh, this is not going well already, is it? It's really broken down into 4 different steps. So knowing your students, understanding where you might have hidden costs, focusing on the basics, and also looking at future trends. So we're going to go through each of those. So first of all, with knowing your students, at WASHPOINT, we did a survey last year with over 1,000 students. And guess what? We found out that laundry is really not that important to students. Obviously, that makes us sad, but we know it's not their focus. They're more interested in their budget, in cooking their meals, in paying their bills. And laundry is much further down on their kind of list of highlights. But we do know they want to get it right. They want to make sure they're not shrinking clothes. They want to make sure they've not got the wrong programs. But the other thing we know is that it's not important, but it can create a lot of noise. So if you've got a service that's not that important to students, but is creating a lot of noise for you, then we know there's something going on. And Tim's had that experience in the past.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for letting me join. So I'd been Nottingham Trent University for over 25 years, and I joined Warwick 5 years ago as the head of operations for residences and campus cleaning. And one of the things that became very apparent because of the noise very quickly was the dissatisfaction that our students had in our laundry services. So we've got 7,500 beds on campus, and Emily will correct me if I'm wrong. Is it 27 laundries, something like that? So lots of laundry provision. 31, thank you, Emily. So big laundry provision across campus. And I pulled up the stats from our student satisfaction surveys going back, and in 2019 we had a 28% satisfaction with our laundry provision across campus, and constant complaints and constant breakdowns and constant issues. So it felt like we were constantly being bombarded by issues with the laundry, which was taking our focus off other things. So it does create a lot of noise. Obviously your questionnaire and your stats will show that it's not that important to students, and it's not that important until it's not working very well, and then all of a sudden it becomes very important. So like anything, I guess, if students aren't happy with it, it suddenly becomes the top of the agenda.
Yeah, exactly that. So if it is creating noise, then it's really kind of clear that it's something that needs resolving, and understand where some of the challenges might come from. And within that, obviously, we look at lots of different kind of requests, and there's all the obvious costs within the laundry. But through conversations with Tim, it became clear there are also lots of hidden costs as well that can be considered when you're looking at your laundry provision. So we, as part of the survey, we know that our students like the idea of auto-dosing and automatically dispensing detergents and fabric conditioners. And for us, we could see that it was a positive for students. And we also knew it had environmental benefits, because it reduced breakdowns and therefore travel. It reduced the use of single-use plastic, and also you've not got loads of extra kind of detergents going into the water, etc. But there was an area that I didn't consider at all. And then when I was talking to Tim, I was like, oh my goodness, that's completely obvious. I should have thought of it.
Yeah, so we have, as Emily says, we have 31 laundries across campus, and we were having to clean those on a daily basis. But you've got the lint and the fluff from the washing, but also wash powder, was, as you will all know, is everywhere. And students tend to use the cheapest wash powder that they can find. and which was clogging the machines. So we were having to go in and do a full clean of all of those 31 laundries every day. Moving forward to the auto dosing, we're now finding that we're only having to clean those laundries once or twice a week. They stay remarkably clean because there isn't the mess created in the laundries that there once was. So it's had a huge impact on staffing costs for us, because it's kind of taken out 31 hours of cleaning 4 days a week. So that's a substantial saving really in staffing.
And then one of the other challenges that we get asked about auto dosing is how do we manage allergens, and if people don't want to use the fabric conditioner, etc. But you have a solution that you use for that at Warwick.
Yeah, so we moved to auto dosing in my previous university, and obviously we've had auto dosing in for a fair few years now at Warwick. And Warwick was I'd got previous experience of it, so I was quite confident, but Warwick was quite nervous about the auto dosing from an allergen point of view. Lots of people have, various different allergens, and wash powder always seems to be one of those triggers. And we hadn't had problems in the past, and we've had very, very few, and I'm talking a handful of issues in the last few years where students are concerned about the products. So we have all the product data sheets that we can share with the students, so they can see that they're hypoallergenic, etc. But if there are people with severe allergies, we keep one of our facilities on campus as non-auto dosing, so we can direct the students to that facility to be able to use their own products in it if they wish. But actually, as I say, considering we've got 7,500 students on campus, it's not an issue at all. It really isn't.
Hey. And then one of the other areas which we hadn't really considered is about how we've helped increase capacity. So we've introduced WASHPOINT Live, which means that students can see from wherever they are whether there's a machine free, or they can get an alert when their washing has finished. So we were like, great, they can know about their laundry, but it has helped with the flow of students.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, one of the biggest frustrations from students, so this often resulted in complaints about the laundry, and it's not really something that was our fault, is that they always go to the laundry and it's always full, and that's because students will go and put their washing in the morning before they go off to lectures, or at night before they go to bed, and aren't always great at collecting their laundry afterwards. And then there'd be students that would take the laundry out and chuck it on the floor or whatever because they'd see it's finished, and that would cause upset. So there was a bit of friction caused amongst the students because they couldn't get readily accessible machines, and laundry was being left for a fair period of time. And this has really solved that. So as we've just said, the students can see from the comfort of their room, oh, there's a washer free in my laundry, I'll take it down now. They get that alert when it's finished, so there's that reminder, oh, it's done, I can go and fetch it. And so it's really improved that kind of those peak flows in our laundry, and really improved that backlog that students were facing. So it's made a big difference actually.
Which is great to hear. And then, of course, it's also about focusing on the basics, because then you don't get the noise, and everything hopefully goes more smoothly. And one of the ways is around how people pay. So we use a contactless system, which can be used with credit cards, debit cards, wallets, cards from all over the place. And we were sort of reflecting really on how much things have changed.
Yeah, this really upsets me because I'm obviously just too old and I've been in the game far too long. So I remember always having to keep on our reception pots of pound coins and 20p pieces, because it was 40p for a dry, it was 2 20 pences for a dry or whatever. And students never had the change, and nowhere on campus would give them the change. And so it was always an issue. And then thankfully, technology progressed and we moved to the prepayment cards. That was great. That made a big difference. But students had problems topping them up. They'd lose their cards, and then they'd have to go through the rigmarole of trying to get their money back, etc. It was just difficult. So to go to the contactless payment again has just made a massive difference to us. So it no longer is an issue. And the good thing for us, or the most important thing for us, is over half of our population at Warwick in accommodation are international students. A lot of Chinese, a lot of Indian students, and obviously they have different payment methods. It's not just this box standard MasterCard, Visa, or debit cards. They have, particularly the Chinese students, have their own and payment methods, and this system accepts all of those payment methods. So again, it's great that students can use that. They use their Apple Pay on their phones, etc. So again, it's just taken a headache out of it, really. It's made it much more accessible and much easier.
And from our end as well, because if they call up and they say they've got an issue, we can see everything we can't see all their personal details, but on the back end, it's easy for us to sort out refunds. It's easy for us to kind of pinpoint what it is that they're talking about. So it's all just more information that helps us give a better service to the students. This one came from the research that we did last year. So we somewhat made an assumption in advance, as you can't help but do, to say, I'm sure they're all going to come back and say social media is the best way that students like to get in touch with people. But we were really surprised that when we asked the students how do they like to contact the provider, that the telephone was at number 1, followed by email. So I guess we learned a few things from it. One, that we needed to have lots of different channels, so to make it as easy as possible for the students to get in touch with us, but also that we shouldn't make assumptions, and just because we're kind of putting students into boxes of certain age categories or certain behaviours, that we're making the right assumption. So it's important that we keep doing the research and keep understanding the students, and always kind of checking ourselves, I suppose, and making sure that we're not just making those assumptions.
Yeah, I'm with the students all the way there. It absolutely drives me to distraction, those online chats when you try and get through to any company and you have an
Yeah.
online chat bot or whatever that talk nonsense and don't understand what you're trying to say. I'd much rather pick up the phone. So for once, I'm in agreement with students.
Getting it all sorted easily. And then I guess that kind of builds really on continuing to progress, particularly where they're long-term contracts that we're always challenging and not resting on our laurels. So as a brand linked into the research, we've done a lot of work on how the laundries look, on working through the customer experience, making sure that we're not kind of just stuck and thinking that will do. And you can see on the left kind of the older style laundries, which were still, nice looking laundries, but we've kind of taken it forward and tried to make the communication better, tried to make them bright, because we know that, laundries aren't always fun, might not always be the best room on campus, but at least we can make it somewhere that you don't mind spending some time. And then working with our partners so that we're supporting different events. So we always do the Freshers Week at Warwick, and we've been working with other universities supporting Green Week, all of those different things, so that we can just help in terms of the students and adding that value through the life of the contract.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we were delighted when we appointed WASHCO or WASHPOINT, because you came in and you refurbished all our laundries and turned them from quite dreary spaces into something more akin to the left-hand picture that looked much fresher and much better. And again, I'll get all the information wrong, and I'm sure I'll get corrected, but I think we've been with you 3 years now, maybe 4, and you're already refreshing and
End of year 3.
Yeah, end of year 3. There you go. I've got something right. So, and you're already going through now and refreshing our laundries to keep them, nice, which is great, because it's, we've got areas that are being refurbed and refreshed that's not costing us anything. So anything for free is a bonus.
And if we can get the students to love laundry as much as us laundry geeks, that would be amazing. And then we also wanted to just have a discussion really about future trends and how we make sure that we're always ahead. And I think the next slide is my favourite slide, because I never thought within a work capacity that I would get the opportunity to put dot cotton into a slide. So this is a first for me in my career. But when we were speaking, Tim was talking about the dot cotton service that they're considering.
Yeah, so you know, as we've said right from the beginning, we're always kind of looking at future proofing and improving our services to students, and what can we do that's better. And fortunately or unfortunately, we have quite a lot of wealthy students at Warwick who like to use services. And one of the things that's coming out is they'd quite like a service wash dot cotton type service. I'm not sure whether we'd be allowed to have a fag on when we were doing their laundry, but that kind of service wash where they can drop their washing off, have it all washed and dried for them, and they can collect it. And you know, lots of our students can afford to do that. There's lots that can't. We'd always keep that laundry provision for those students, but there are, you know, there are those more wealthy students that would really love that service. And so we're looking into that possibility at the moment. We've got one more laundry that we need to refocus on, which was previously run by Student Union and is now being handed over to us. And we're looking at the possibilities of creating that service wash provision in there, because it's right in the centre of campus. And maybe even going one step further, where we could do a laundry delivery and collection service for the students. So, you know, they can we can supply them with a laundry bag, they can put their laundry in it, we'll collect it, have it put through dot cotton, dot will pack it back in the bag, and we'll deliver it back again. So we're looking at these things for the future now to improve those services. And the other thing that we're looking at is trying to put in a provision of a dry cleaning service on campus. So lots of students have got items of clothing that they can all afford, this designer clothing that I can't possibly afford. And you know, lots of it needs specialist dry cleaning. So it's again something that we're looking at providing. So we're constantly kind of looking forward. So that's our next kind of point of call that we'll need WASHPOINT's help and advice on, really.
And I know, when I've spoken to the other Emily on the call, she's been doing awareness days at laundries, and people have walked in and then handed their washing to her, and she's like, no, I'm just doing an awareness day. So if that's any indicator, there are definitely people who have that expectation.
That's not because she looks anything like Dot Cotton, though.
No, I would like to clarify that point, actually.
Careful, Tim.
And then the other one that we're kind of seeing a trend for is people considering a kind of fully inclusive laundry offer for their students, because, you know, nobody wants to pay for laundry. But it raises some interesting questions, you know, environmentally, how it's managed. And I don't know if anyone else has had any experience with it. Tim, is it something you've ever thought about doing?
Not really. That's only just starting to sort of come into the market, where we know there are providers now who are including free vendor laundry into their rents. And that's great. The more we can include in the rents, really, the better for the students. But it does, for me, it has one big negative, which is the environmental impact. So like most universities and most companies, we're all heading towards net zero and trying to reduce our carbon imprint and trying to become more sustainable. And my worry for this would be, if your laundry is free, will that encourage students to go and wash, you know, 3 pairs of knickers and a vest, as opposed to doing you know, putting a full load of laundry in? I think if I'd got access to a free laundry and I'd worn my going out shirt and I wanted it for the next night, I might go and just put it in the washer on its own, just because it's free and you can. So I guess that's the thing that needs resolving in my mind, is would that lead to a massive increase of use of water, you know, cleaning chemicals, electricity, etc. And I guess until we've tried it or it's trialed and tested, we don't necessarily know that. But I think that would be a potential danger.
Has anybody else considered it or experienced it that they could share? No, everyone's too shy.
All right. Hi, it's Katie.
Hello.
I just thought, hi, wash station. Yeah, we've got in a couple of sites, we have got laundry included in rent. And I think Tim, just to kind of like maybe touch on a couple of your concerns. On the whole, it works very well.
Okay.
We don't see people kind of just cruising in and throwing, like you say, that odd pair of socks in or an odd shirt or something, because at the end of the day, it's still a chore. You know, it takes time out of people's day to actually go and process this stuff. But I think the other thing on the environmental side, I mean, our equipment is different from WASHPOINT's, but our machines basically gauge how much water is needed for the weight of laundry that's in the drum on every single cycle. So we haven't experienced a difference in impact because the machine kind of sorts that out by itself. But yeah, I think on the whole, look, it's been really positive, and I think it's something that we as a services provider would actively encourage. I think the value proposition on it is very strong, so it's a big thumbs up if that's something you're thinking about. Think about it.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and as, like I say, anything that you can do that adds that increased value, we just have to. I guess, you know, I can talk for more. We fight to try and keep our rents as low as possible. You know, where everything's going up, cost of living's going up, you know, RPI, everything is going up, and trying to keep our rents as low as possible. What I wouldn't want to do is add, you know, a few more pounds a week on top of the rent to do it. If we could do it and encompass it in the existing rents, then that would be more favourable, I think. But you know, it's important to keep competitive with our rents. But it is interesting because, as I say, that would have been my big fear, was the environmental type impact. But you're right, washing is a chore, and you know, the laundries aren't. We have got a couple of blocks of accommodation, our new accommodation, where we have included washer dryers in those, in the kitchens, slightly higher rents. So we've got a good ladder of rents at Warwick, so you know, we can pick your service, but the majority of ours you have to walk across and find the laundry and go to the laundry. So you're right, it probably wouldn't impact it, but that they would just be my worry. So it's interesting to hear that feedback.
Yeah, well, you'll have some, I'm sure you'll have some measurement of, you know, the pattern of life in the laundries now and the volumes that are being done. You know, it's, as you sort of pointed out, it's worth trialing a site and just seeing if there's any change in those volumes. But I think it'd be a wonderful initiative.
Yeah, you're right. The difficulty in trialing a site is that if word gets around that one of our laundries is free, we'd have a queue of 7,500 students outside that laundry. So that, you know, there are difficulties, but there are ways around it, and it's, you know, it's certainly worth looking into.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to test and just see which way the market goes. That was my last slide. I wonder if anybody had any questions or anything they would like to raise.
Everyone's gone very quiet. Oh no, Laura's got a hand up.
Always got something. I was interested in your kind of, this is how students want to communicate with us. I know that you got that data from the survey. Is that data borne out in your experience as well? I'm just wondering how much students are kind of saying they want phone, but actually want, you know, something else or not.
We see both. We do see them calling in. We see them emailing us a lot. We don't get loads through the social because we track it all. So we do get some through it, but it's really not that many. It's more that they're calling or they're sending an email that we see.
Yeah, so quite similar to what the survey said too. That's interesting.
Yes. Yeah. Did somebody just ask a question? Was it about service charges?
So a message just popped up on the chat. So James Broadley's just said, what are the wash and dry charges there, please?
I don't know them off by heart, but I'm thinking Emily Nash might.
I don't say because I'll get them wrong.
Bear with me. I'm just checking. Didn't have that one readily to hand. Damn.
Feel like you've let yourself down, Emily.
Oh, I know I have. Bear with me. Sorry. Just logging into the system because we can see live on what they are on each machine at machine level right now. So I'm just going to check that.
What I will say is, while Emily's looking, if anyone doesn't feel like they want to ask a question now, but they've got any questions for me afterwards, then please feel free to get in touch, and I can also share the research as well, so you can take a look at it at your leisure should you be interested. Oh, sorry,
To
Emily, what
answer the
was that?
question at Warwick, the wash price is £3.20, and the dry is £1.70. But it's really clear to say that we are not setting the VEN prices. We work with each university to agree what best works for them. We sense check what's happening in other universities, both nationally and more locally, and then that is agreed. And then we review that every year to make sure that we're in line, listening to the student feedback from student surveys that are done throughout the year, and then the end of year survey that Warwick do each year. So it's very much university specific and on what that university and the students within that university are wanting.
And before we do that, before we agree those prices with you, we look at our competitor market and look at the private market in our area, etc. So we always try and remain competitive with what's going on out there with our laundry costs. But the other thing that I would like to mention is the £1.70 for the dry. The clothes actually come out dry after that £1.70. So I just remember the time where they used to feed the 20 pences into the dryer, and they'd be feeding them in forever and they didn't come out very dry. That is they do come out nice and crisp and dry. So, and I should mention, I mentioned earlier that the stat that our laundry satisfaction was down to and now I've lost it. Our laundry satisfaction was down to 28% in 2019. We're now up to 62% satisfaction in our laundry and our student survey. So there's been a massive jump there.
Did anyone else have any more questions? Mark.
Thank you. Hi, yeah, it's Mark Taylor for Unite Students. So just pricing, I think, was probably one of our biggest complaints that we receive on laundry, and I guess it's really comes down to things like quality of service. But our sort of looking at the prices that were just quoted a moment ago, they're very sort of similar to those of what you have at Warwick. So just, I think, where you go for like your market intelligence on things like pricing, is it just like going around to local laundrettes in the area, or is there any sort of other any other sort of available tools that you use for that?
No, we tend to we look at kind of our peer universities, if you like. We gather the data from them because that's easy to get hold of. We surreptitiously go to people like Unite and find out how much they're charging in the local market. And there isn't any laundry. There used to be a couple of laundrettes fairly locally, but they've seemed to have gone. There is in Coventry, but we don't tend to go to them because they're not really in the students given to go. They'd have to get an Uber there and an Uber back, or a bus or whatever. So it's not really what is in our comparable market. So we just look at other providers really. And I guess obviously if Dot Cotton opened a laundry near to campus, we would be looking at their prices. But I guess the fact that those laundrettes have gone out of business for quite a while now is quite telling in a way that students weren't using them, because obviously if they were so much cheaper and students were queuing out the door, they'd still be going now. Yeah,
I think we're seeing an increase in sort of companies coming onto sort of our properties and doing this sort of fully serviced offering, whereby they can, a bit like a reverse delivery, I guess. Really, they come onto site with an empty bag, take the stuff away, and then bring it back. But it's surprising to see how much students are willing to pay for that, because we're seeing sort of charges of around about £10 per load, which is obviously almost double the price as what we're paying for a wash and dry. So I think that's probably one of our sort of biggest competitors that seem to be coming on. It's just that convenience, like you said, of that fully service side. But I'm really interested in and to see your improvement in scores, because laundry for us is a very sort of low scoring area, and depending on, you know, we've changed different ways of how we do it. We've, you know, we give out free products, so we allow students to help themselves to washing products, so detergent and things like that, to try and increase activity, because we get, I think nationally we're probably like up to about 150 to 200,000 cycles a month at the moment, so it's quite a lot goes through there, and get quite a lot of negative sentiment. So do you feel a lot of that positive sentiment then is come from, you're saying, I think from listening to earlier, was around the auto dosing and the quality of the environment? Was that
I mean,
the bigger thing?
Well, to be fair to our previous provider, the machines were older. And obviously Washco came in and we've got all brand new machines, so we've got a lot less breakdowns because they're all nice and shiny and new. But when there is a problem, Washco are very, very quick to address the problem. So the machine's out of action usually for less than a day. One of the machines, if there's an issue, they're very quick to rectify it. So I think the access to the laundry is, and the fact that it's doing what it says on the tin. So you can go in, you can put your wash with a stress-free journey. You can go in, put your washing in, get it done. You can pay for it easily. You don't have to worry about wash powder. I guess it's all of those things combined that have risen the scores. And we're kind of peaking around the 62%. So it's been at that now for the last couple of years. So it very quickly went from a very low score to, you know, a good score. Our SLA's put everything at above 80%, but I'm not so sure you'll ever get that with laundry unless you do it for free. I think that would make you know, a big difference. I think whenever, you know, I know when I was 18, if I'd have had to pay £3.20 to wash my clothes, I'd have thought it was extortionate. And I'd, you know, because you've left home and it's always been free, and that would have been, you know, half a bottle of cheap vodka at Tesco. So I guess whenever they're going to have to pay for it, it's a non-sexy service, isn't it? You're never going to get students enthusing about it or being like, "God, the laundry is absolutely fab. I love it. I can't get enough of it." So, you know, the fact that we're continually climbing it pleases us and makes us. It's dropped off our radar now, the laundry, and it gives us a chance to concentrate on other things. So yeah, we're very happy with the way it's gone.
Okay, thanks, Tim. Appreciate it.
Anybody else? Thank you very much.
That's it's gone very, very quiet. Well, thank you so much to everybody for joining us today. It's been very, very interesting. Emily's going to share the slides with me after the call, so I can share that with attendees that have been on today's call, as well as a recording of the video that will be sent out to members as well. I'll share, if you're happy for me to share your contact details as well, Emily, I'll share that in the email that goes out to attendees. So if anybody has got any questions that they want to pick up offline after the call today, feel free to reach out to Emily with those as well.
Great.
Thank you very much. And thank you for the session today. Thanks, everybody.
Nice to see everyone.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.